Hey guys, welcome to the channel. For my first video, we're going to do my top 10 metal albums of 2020. So before we get started, I want to throw out a couple honorable mentions, namely Poppy and Ghostmane. I think they both had absolutely incredible, downright incredible albums this year. However, they're a bit cross-genre. They blend a lot of different stuff, and so I'm going to exclude them from this list just because I want to talk more about traditional metal. But don't worry, there will be videos about them in the future. Okay, so we get started with the top 10 then. And in 10th place, we have Wilderness with Dark Waters. Now, this is a black and folk metal album. The dynamics on it are really incredible. They do a great job of meshing the folk instrumentals with really somber moments, but also then the harsh blackness that we all show up for. I think the title track here is the one you're going to want to look to see if you'll like the rest of the album, but 2 thumbs up. In 9th place, we have December Noir with Renaissance of Hope. This is a death doom album, but it has a very serious progressive avant-garde hipster flair to it. The main takeaway that I get from this album is the songs start off kind of as death doom toe tappers, but then evolve into these awesome shoegazy soundscapes. I just really loved the sonic palette of this album. It reminded me a whole lot of Brave Murder Day, which is one of my favorite metal albums. In 8th place, we have Black Royal with Fire Bride. Now, this album is just engineered front to back to maximize headbanging. If you just want some album with big, stupid riffs to nod your head along to, this is probably it. At the same time, it's not just foot on the gas death metal. It understands dynamics and has downtime when you need it. In 7th place, we have Countless Skies Glow. Now, I keep seeing this labeled as melodeath, and it is melodeath, but there's also post-rock in there, and some black aspects, and certainly a hefty dose of progressive metal in the style of Devin Townsend. Honestly, I just think this album's a lot of fun, and it never does any one thing for too long. Coming in at number 6, we have Stardust with Strangers. Now, the secret sauce of Stardust is that they take the symphonic and pop sensibilities of their peers and eschew them for Broadway show tune sensibilities. And that, combined with their progressive and extremely technical playing, creates this scatterbrained whirlwind of music that's barely held together by a single thread of like Broadway show tune choruses and vocals. Like, some of these songs really feel like they might just tear themselves apart from their own chaos, but they never do. Like, they stay cogent and very enjoyable, and it's a great album for that reason. Coming in at number 5, we have Undeath with Lesions of a Different Kind. Now, this album is pretty straightforward. It's heavy, it grooves. Some of the songs are downright catchy. And while I don't think it's revolutionary, I do think it's traditional death metal at its finest. Coming in at number 4, we have Unrequited with Empathica. Okay, so this one takes a little bit of explaining. Let's start with the cover art. So the first time you look at the cover art, you see like, oh, okay, it's got some icy little mountainscape, but you look a little longer, you see there's the little snow spirits wandering about down there, and the mountains are like evaporating or like breaking off and drifting into the ether. And the skies are like this pinkish purple color, and there's a lot of like green, and like the color palette's just a little off. Like, the whole thing feels a little strange and otherworldly. And I think that the art really does a great job of conveying what the music sounds like. It's icy, it's ethereal, it's a bit otherworldly. And then the track list comes in and tells a story. Like with Crystal Cascade, the whole track has an uplifting black gaze sound to it that really feels like you're floating and lifting off along with like these mountains, and this whole world is breaking apart as like crystals kind of cascade around you. Then Snow Spirits of the Arcane has this very downtrodden, aimless, lost feel to it. You can imagine these little snow spirits just wandering around this barren wasteland as if they're damned or trapped in limbo. The Permafrost starts off with this piano and string arrangement that's very cold and icy, but then halfway through the song, the distorted guitars come in along with wailing synths and also echoing black metal screams in the background. And I just kind of imagine this big ice sheet with millions of souls trapped in it, and the souls are like struggling against the ice and screaming in agony, trying to escape their bonds. And then the last track, Dreamer's Hideaway, has this delicate piano melody that goes through the whole track and creates this like little protagonist, this delicate protagonist that you just want to be okay in this harsh world. It's like there's some mountain with a cave, and in that cave there's this little dreamer swaddled in blankets with a little fire, and they're just trying to eke out their existence while the wind whips around outside. You can actually hear the wind in the track. Anyway, this is an atmospheric black metal album. And so if you're not the kind of person who usually listens to atmospheric black metal, you might find it to be a bit boring. It is a listen that requires a lot of patience, but if you're willing to give it the patience, I do think it's an extremely rewarding listen. Coming in at number 3, we have Alnumrood with Walla At. Now, Alnumrood is the only black metal band from Saudi Arabia, which is a country where it is literally illegal to produce music. And not only does Alnumrood produce music, they produce heretical, rebellious music that criticizes the Saudi regime. The members are all pseudonymous, and if their real identities are ever revealed, they will likely face execution by the Saudi regime. Seriously. So, okay, insane origin story aside, the music is also fantastic. They incorporate a lot of traditional Saudi instruments, but in order to do so, they have to tune their guitars out of the usual A440 standard that we all hear all day, every day. And the result is a crazy, distorted, cacophonous mix of like guitars and ouds and woodwinds. Like Mephisto, the guitarist, must have to do a pretty decent amount of math just to get these things all to line up. And then the frontman Mudamar is an extremely unique vocalist who has a very brutish style. Not brutal, brutish. And it's just incredibly engaging, even though it's all in Arabic. So coming in at number 2, we have Bleakhart with Dreamgriever. Now, this is not a headbanging album. It's not a toe-tapping album. It's not fast. It's not catchy. It's not even particularly heavy. And yeah, I guess I'm not selling this. So what this is mellow. This is for the times that you want a somber and ruminative listen. Now, it's slow. It's doom, funeral doom even, and the mix is tremendously sparse. But it's sparse so that the utmost attention can be paid to every detail, and throughout the whole thing, frontwoman Kelly Schilling's vocals act as a guiding light through the bleak, downtrodden, but somehow hopeful atmosphere. This is another album that requires a lot of patience from the listener, but I believe that it's a really great musical experience. Okay, and last and certainly not least is my album of the year, Igor, with Spirituality and Distortion. And I think the best way to approach this album is the same way you approach a circus. Don't think about it, don't analyze it, just sit back and enjoy the spectacle. This album is just one circus act after another. Every time you get comfortable with what Igor was doing, they hit you with a left hook and just go somewhere else. On top of the crazy arrangements, crazy experimental arrangements, Noir is an amazing vocalist. she's classical styled with serious metal tinges, and there's no one in the world with her exact brand of metal vocals. Now, while I think this is the best album of the year, I think Igor also wins some other accolades, such as 1. Best use of a goat. 2. Best music video. The Very Noise music video is a throwback, I suppose an homage, to the Gary's Mod videos that were popular like 12 years ago, and it's great. 3rd, best drum tone. The bass drum in Downgrade Desert. I don't know what they did to it, but it sounds like an oil tanker. 4th, best feature. They brought in Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse and just played like 8-bit arcade music all over his vocals for a few minutes. Lastly, I think a really important aspect to this album is that it's actually a entryway to a rabbit hole of other great music. Igor's previous discography is a bit hit or miss, but Noir and Gautier are both in other musical groups such as Ricine and Corpo Mente. Additionally, Igor just kind of exists in the greater avant-garde French metal scene, and as a result of this album, I spent a lot of time listening to bands like Caterpillar and Alcest that I probably wouldn't have listened to as much otherwise. Okay, that is my top 10 metal albums of the year. Be sure to let me know in the comments what atrocities I committed by excluding certain bands. And also just like, comment, subscribe, garbage.